Welcome to Her Education, the podcast. Today we are back with a mindset / more like a self-development theme podcast, and I'm going to be discussing the topic of finding your purpose in life. This is probably a little bit deep, but I get a lot of questions around like, I don't really know what to do with my future, or I don't really know what my passion is about, or if they do know what they're passionate about, they don't really know what to do with it. So I really wanted to talk a little bit about this because I think this is a really important subject. There's nothing like finding fulfillment in your work. And if you really don't know what you're doing, then what you want to do, then I guess you won't have that feeling. So I wanted to start this episode with a little bit of a story from my days working as a personal trainer in the Dungeon Gym back in, it would have been like 2016, maybe even earlier than that. But if you want to know the full story of how I got into women's health, you can actually go back and listen to the first episode of the podcast. But I basically kicked off my personal training career in this really old school gym that was located in a car park underneath a small shopping complex that was basically known for its typical bodybuilding clientele. So it was a little bit of a dungy gym. It was typically dirty, and no one really wanted to go there unless they were kind of like hiding from society or bodybuilders. And it was probably a really hard place for me to start my career, to be quite honest, but it was actually also really helpful, and I learned a lot about it. So, and I loved the gym. I loved the grunginess of it. But anyway, bringing women there was hard. Anyway, that's a story for another day. But I was actually fairly lucky in a sense that I was actually able to work there for myself, and it was basically rent-free. I didn't have to pay any rent, so it was super great. I could start off with like 2 clients or 1 and didn't have hardly any overhead. So it was super great for me. Now, there were other trainers that were working out of there as well at the time, and they were predominantly bodybuilding coaches that were also working for themselves. And one of the trainers in particular, who was predominantly in that bodybuilding coaching, scene or muscle sculpting, and was pretty well known for that, also partly owned a supplement store and was doing like a transition into that in terms of like long-term career pathway. Anyway, one day I was actually at the shop that he was part owner in to buy protein ice cream. They had this protein ice cream there, and this was in the days where I was like more into the bodybuilding type of training. I never actually competed in any bodybuilding at all. I just knew that was a disaster for me because I had really unhealthy relationship with food, and knew that pathway was bad. Anyway, I also knew it was super unhealthy for you, so didn't want to go down that pathway, but I liked doing that split training program, and I pretty much ate meal prep food from containers for a really long time. I counted macros, and I lived a very strict life around this. It was pretty boring. It was pretty bad. But anyway, that's the phase of life I was in. So I was buying this protein ice cream, and we actually got talking about business, which has been something that I always naturally navigate to. And what I was trying to do, he basically was like, we were talking about what I was trying to do in women's health scene, which at the time was basically just train women really well. And I really wanted to just be the known person in the area in women's health and be the trainer that was like, yeah, go see her. So I was explaining that to him. And anyway, he basically was like, so like, what's the long-term goal and the vision? And like, how do you plan to make money from this? And what's profitable for you? And do you want your own space? Are you going to have a clinic? Are you going to have a gym? Do you want to have people work for you? Are you going to run group classes? And I honestly was like, mate, I just want to be good at what I do. And I honestly don't know like which direction I want to even go in, other than like all I've thought about is like get clients, bring them into the gym, train them, make money, and then see what happens. That was basically it. And he then pulled out this piece of paper and walked me through this explanation of working out what you should do with your life. And for the sake of this podcast, let's just call this the Circles of Purpose activity. There was no name to it. We just did it. And I actually kept this for a really long time, and I tried to find it recently when I was thinking about this podcast episode. And I know I have it somewhere, but I just can't find it. But I actually have this piece of paper still. Anyway, so he drew this one circle on the piece of paper, and he labeled it what do you like? And this was basically like interest, hobbies, activities that you really like doing, things you're interested in. And you had to basically make a list of everything that you wanted like that fell into that category for that circle. And then he drew a second circle, and that sort of overlapped the first one, and he labeled that, what am I good at? And this was like natural gifts or skill sets that you have. So this could be like communicating, public speaking, building communities, maybe connecting and building rapport with people, empathy, teaching, organizing people's lives. I don't know, whatever. Really good skills that you have that you're naturally really good at. And then the third circle, I mean, that could also be like what you were generally good at as well. Like, I don't know, women's health, whatever. Could be like that, but I use it more of a skill set thing. And then the third circle he drew overlaps both of them. So like they had that little like overlapping space in all three circles. And that circle was money making. And that was basically ways you could be paid. Anyway, at the point at which all those three circles met was what you could do with your life. And I actually went home and did this activity. And I put everything on the list. And then I really looked at it and I realized that I had, like, I already kind of knew this, but I had a really, really big passion for women's health and generally improving health and well-being for people. And I mean, like in that topic, I had nutrition, I had skincare, I had gut health, I had hormones, I had women's health, I had pelvic health, I had lifting weights and prevention of disease and like self-care and like all of those same sort of things that fall into that typical category of like health and fitness and well-being. And then I had like skills around teaching, sharing knowledge. I was really good at explaining things to people. I used to often catch myself at workplaces that were like hospitality jobs that I had back in the day. And it was basically like me teaching people about nutrition that they had no idea. And they're like, I'm on a weight loss program and I'm eating 800 calories. And I'm like, mate, no, why are you doing that? So I had this like real skill at teaching people and making things like understandable. And then I also had like, I was really good at speaking in public, and I was really good at like connecting and building relationships with clients at the time. So I had like a lot of these skill sets. I had drive, I had motivation, I was really driven, I was independent, things like that. So I had all these like skill set on there. And then I wrote down what I could get paid for. And at the time, basically all I had was like one-on-one sessions or education sessions or group classes or having my own gym, or I even had to think like speaking or at health events, which I thought at the time was like super impossible for me to do, but it was like, that's what I could do. Or like I could create education or whatever. So I had all these different things on there, but I guess that category wasn't very big because I didn't really know which ways you could make money at the time. I was pretty early on in the life of working for yourself. So it's hard to know how you can make money until you're probably in that. But I really felt like this activity helped me really visualize how I could actually combine natural skills, passions, and I guess ways to make money to create an option for me to begin working towards something that I really, really enjoyed. So I revisited this activity like a couple of times when I felt like a little bit lost in terms of the direction that I really wanted to go with myself in my career. And I think as you grow as a person, you start to see those like different opportunities that either create money or maybe ways to share your skill set or ways to, I guess, be creative in your skill set and deliver things like services. And you also start to navigate towards, I guess, certain interests. Like for me, the nutrition side, like I still really love nutrition and like well-being, but it's not something that I probably really wanted to dive into to share with other people. Whereas like the pelvic health side of things, like I really naturally gravitated towards that, and hormone health and things like that. So I guess that also popped up when I revisited that activity. Now, if you fast forward a couple of years, let's say in the last, let's say 6 months, I reckon, maybe even longer, but recently, I've actually come across this concept called Ikigai, which is an ancient Japanese philosophy that means your reason for being. And it is basically describes your life purpose, what brings you joy, and the reason that we get up in the morning. I don't really want to dive too much into it because I'm not really that well-rounded in this. I've only really recently come across this, but it's come up multiple times for me. So I've heard it on so many different podcasts that are not related to itself. Like it wasn't in the title and I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to listen to this, but it just popped up randomly. And then I think once my partner actually sent me an Instagram static post of this, and it was like, it's like a picture. So I'm going to share with you the concept of the picture, but it was a post and he said, I think you might like this. And I had never mentioned it to him before. So I was like, what? How did this even pop up on his feed? Like, it's so random. And then I recently was at the bookstore. I was actually at Kmart and I saw the book there. It's called Ikigai and it's like the purpose of life or something like this. And I saw it in Kmart and I was like, whoa, that's random. Like there's a book on this. This is like the third time I've actually seen this in like a month. And then I left it. But then I went, I think it was when I was going to the wedding. I went to a wedding in Cairns and I basically went to the bookshop in the airport and had the book there. And I was like, man, I need to buy this book. It's like the universe is saying like, learn about Ikigai. So I bought the book. Anyway, I read the book and it dives into like a little bit more about like Japanese people and like, I guess the places in the world where people really grow old and are really quite healthy and live a really, really great life. And so it's about that as well as this Ikigai. So in a nutshell, it doesn't go into the activity itself in the sense of doing it, but it describes a lot about it. Basically, this whole Ikigai concept is very similar to the circles of passion that I created I didn't create it, but I created the name that goes alongside the story from earlier. And it basically adds more layers on top of those basic 3 circles that I talked about. So it has a 4th circle in the baseline. So let's talk about the base of the actual concept is 4 circles, and it's basically what you love doing, what you're good at, and then ways you can be paid. And the 4th one is what the world needs. So it brings in a concept of like, purpose in a sense of like, is your service or the thing that you want to do actually needed, and has the potential to bring success, I guess. But then it also adds on like another layer of circles that start to cross over each other again. And those other 4 layers are mission, vocation, profession, and passion. And basically, you can fall into any aspects of these, I guess, circles, crossovers, and there'll be always something missing from, I guess, you feeling your true passion or purpose in life. So whether that's like uncertainty, whether it's like no financial reward, maybe no job prospects and things like that, or maybe no need, or there's like, you don't feel like, I guess, a sense of like no one appreciates what you do because it's not actually needed. So the idea though is that you want to be right in the center of all circles, the intersection of all the circles. And this is basically considered your Ikigai, your purpose for life. And basically the theory behind finding your Ikigai is that you live a really long, you do live a long life because it says that you actually live longer if you're living your true passion, but you also find your true purpose and you have a really fulfilling life that encompasses a lot more balance within you. So it's actually a pretty cool concept and it's like really ancient in theory. So I really like that, but I really recommend looking into this concept if what I am saying to you is resonating. I haven't dived super deep into the activity of that. I mean, there's a couple of different types of resources. You can look them up, but I just think it's really cool because a lot of people, I think there's a lot of option for us at the moment. And like, I'd almost sometimes think like it'd be so much easier to choose something to do if you only had 3 options versus like 3 million options. So I wanted to share that with you. But the reason I really, really wanted to talk about this today is because I actually hear so many people say that like, I don't really know what to do, or I like women's health, but I just don't really know how I can make that work in my life in a sense of a career, or like what I should do with it. And I think that there is this issue of not having like a big picture vision for people, or of what they want to do, or where they want to go. And this really stops people from actually doing anything because they don't really know what steps to take, because they're like, oh, I don't really know what the long-term goal is and what I should be doing. So like, I don't really know what steps to take now. And I personally think that the big picture really doesn't come along until you sort of somewhat already on the journey and you already almost are moving through more of a process of elimination of what you don't like doing and what isn't right for you. So therefore you get closer to finding what you do like and what you are passionate about and what type of work you really want to do. So for me, every new thing I've actually tried in my business or in my career has been basically the outcome of me not really liking or not really loving or resonating with what I was doing in the first place, or before that, or maybe I felt like there was something missing. And it's kind of put me onto the next path of like, well, I didn't really like doing that, so I might just get rid of that part and like try this. And I think that's what's really directed me. It's not really so much like this big vision and like taking the right steps to get to the big vision. It's like, let's make a decision about a certain pathway and then eliminate what you don't like about it, and then uncover the passions that way. So I think if you are really struggling to figure out what you want to do, like where you want to go with your career, then just start with my trusty 3 circles of passion activity and see what happens, see what comes up. I mean, when you really start diving into it, lots of things come up, and you might really see something on paper that you're like, oh, yes, that's what could really work, or that's how I could fit that into my life. And then if you want to go dive deeper into it, then you can go look into the Ikigai concept and listen to some more podcasts about it, or read the book, or do some research on it. There's heaps of stuff on Google, and you'll find plenty of ways to utilize this concept in your own way. When I looked into it a little bit for this podcast, I was like, whoa, there's a lot. But, start there and see what that brings you. So yeah, find your Ikigai, find your passion. Let me know how you go. I hope this brings you value. And if it does, please let me know, because when I hear how the podcast is helping you in your own journey, it honestly just lights the biggest fire in me to keep sharing this stuff with you guys. And even if it's just one of you, it makes a difference, because that's what I'm here for. If you think this might help someone else, please share it with them too. Part of my passion is building a platform and a like-minded community filled with really awesome people that are passionate about what they do too. So if you share the show, it really helps me with my Ikigai, shall we say. So I would really appreciate that too. I mean, I think you can leave a review too. If you guys want to really leave a review, I'd really love that. I've never really asked for a review or anything like that, but I would really appreciate that. So yeah, anyway, thanks still for being here and listening all the way to the end. I feel like most people cancel out here, but I really, really appreciate that. And you being here anyway, even if it wasn't to the end. But I'll see you in the next one. Bye.